Segway magic time! This time around we are talking about the pop culture that we tormented our parents with as children. First things first, I have two brothers, but my half-brother is 13 years older than me and I didn't grow up with him, so when I say we, I am talking exclusively about me and my little brother. I don't think we were too pushy with pop culture type stuff when we were growing up. We definitely didn't watch a whole lot of TV. My mum was really strict about when we could watch TV, and it was basically while she was cooking dinner. We also moved internationally a lot when I was growing up, which meant that we didn't have a whole lot of videotapes or anything like that because, you know, we'd move internationally and they suddenly wouldn't work anymore. As really little kids living in Australia, we watched a hell of a lot of Play School, but I don't think my mum really minded because when we were watching Play School, John was on Play School and John had a tendency to make really smutty jokes that only the adults watching would get. When we moved to Canada and we watched all the standard little kid TV shows, so The Elephant Show and The Polka Dot Door and Today's Special, and if you look up any of those shows on YouTube, you will find that the writers were pretty much on drugs the entire time they were writing them. Other than that, I have this bizarrely vivid memory of us watching a documentary about puffins and being completely engrossed in it, so that probably tells you the kind of kids that we were. We did a lot of road trips, especially across Canada, and for the most part we listened to whatever the hell my dad wanted to listen to because he was doing the driving. So there was a lot of the Eagles and Billy Joel and Jackson Browne, and periodically though we would crack the sads in the back seat, and the only way to remedy it was for Mum to put on a Roald Dahl audiobook. The problem with this, however, was that we only had two Roald Dahl audiobooks. We had Matilda and we had George's Marvellous Medicine. George's Marvellous Medicine was by far our favourite because it includes the monumental line, "Grandma had a small puckered up mouth like a dog's bottom," which made us laugh because it's hilarious, but also made us laugh because my poor long-suffering grandmother says when she goes to kiss you, she says, "pucker up." So that added this like extra layer of hilarity to the situation because it meant that we were actually picturing our grandmother. If we weren't listening to Roald Dahl audiobooks in the car, we were pleading to listen to any number of Broadway soundtracks, but mostly Les Mis, Cats and Phantom. Also the Dirty Dancing soundtrack. My brother's favourite song when he was 3 was Hungry Eyes, which is totally appropriate for a 3-year-old. On a personal level, I tormented my entire family with my obsession with Anne of Green Gables. For basically the duration of the last 2 years that we were in Canada, I begged my parents at every possible moment to take us on a family holiday to Prince Edward Island. So frankly, I'm still a little mad that we didn't go on a family holiday to Prince Edward Island. I also won tickets to see the Anne of Green Gables musical live on stage in Toronto, and I dragged everybody with me, and my parents, perhaps stupidly, bought me the soundtrack on cassette, and I tormented everybody with it for like the next 2 years non-stop. As far as movies go, we weren't really into Disney or cartoons or any of that kind of stuff, and really the only Disney I can remember seeing as a kid is the Robin Hood movie. Loved Indiana Jones, but I think from memory the only one that we actually had was Raiders of the Lost Ark, so we would just watch Raiders over and over and over and over again. I remember being really scared of Temple of Doom because of the guy ripping out the human hearts and the blah blah that was. We also loved Romancing the Stone and Jewel of the Nile, but we fast forwarded through the kissing and the sex scenes because it was really boring. When I was about 10, my mum read us The Hobbit, and I'm still not quite sure why because my mum really hates fantasy stuff. I actually dragged her to see the first Hobbit movie a couple of years ago, and she basically slept through it, and then when we got out of the movie theatre she was like, well, that was a lot of wank. So I guess that kind of means I'm still tormenting my mum with pop culture. In my early teens, we only had the one television, and I was really super pushy about everybody having to watch the thing that I wanted to watch. I loved Friends, which my dad to this day describes as people in apartments trying to have sex with each other, so that went down about as well as you'd expect. Survivor was also not a big hit. The one that stands out for me the most is Blue Heelers. It was this bizarrely popular Australian cop show in the late 90s, set in a small town that is miraculously filled with like drug manufacturers and murderers and psychopaths and people making explosives and kidnapping police officers and just all this kind of random shit in this tiny little one pub town. I'm not sure that anybody in the household except me actually liked it, and it may in fact be the reason that we ended up getting a second television. Much like Mari said on Monday, I'm now on the receiving end of the pop culture torment courtesy of my niece. She's nearly 10 now, so she's over the worst of the pop culture tormenty stuff, but she did go through the obligatory Dora the Explorer phase, which nearly killed me. However, by far the worst was when she was obsessed with Peppa Pig, and I think that's because episodes of Peppa Pig go for about 5 to 10 minutes, and so when she's watching a DVD of Peppa Pig, you hear the theme music like non-stop. Sweeney, I'm sure that you and your siblings did plenty of pop culture tormenting over the years, and I can't wait to hear all about it on Friday.